welcome friends. This is Kate and we're doing bone health yoga. And I'm just going to open one little bit more light here. All right, much better. All right, so welcome. And what we're going to do today is a short practice for bone health. So what we want to start with is the foundation. I already noticed that my feet are kind of not where they should be. So the first thing we want to look at is the four corners of the feet. So each kind of interest, so we're looking at osteoporosis, osteopenia. Each interest has maybe a different way of looking at function versus form. So we're looking at function, not form. But our form is going to have some play in our function with this. Sometimes it doesn't. All right, so four corners of the feet. What am I talking about? Big toe, pinky toe, inside of the heel, outside of the heel. So take a moment, stand up. If your standing isn't always stable, have a chair nearby. Or I also like a pole. And I think in the introduction video, we talked about that a little bit. So we want to not just introduce those 4 points of the feet, but we're going to encourage the cross muscles of that. So we're going to start by pushing the big toe down, and then we're going to go to the outside edge of the heel in the back. And then cross over to the inside edge of the heel, press down there. And then from that point, we're going to push down into the pinky toe side. So we've made like a little X on the bottom of our foot. So that's going to help us with stability, knowing where our foot is in space. And it's going to encourage those muscles in the feet to do some work instead of dumping our weight in the knees or not using them properly. All right, so let's do the other foot. Big toe, outside edge of the back heel, across to the inside edge, push down there, and then pinky toe. And then we want to maybe spread the toes out a little bit too. So we can feel all four corners of both feet. Just take a breath or two here and activate those muscles. So I use a couple different terms when I'm talking about this. So hugging the muscles to the bone, activating the muscles. I'm sure I'll think of the other ones as I go. Like when you were a kid and you used to do the make the muscle, so you are engaging this muscle. That's the other word I'm looking for. So we want to use that force of the muscle to strengthen the bones. All right, we're also going to use body weight against gravity and couple of other things that are really important for our bone health. All right, so we got our feet. That's 1 point. The next thing we want to look at is knee tracking. So when your feet are not where they should be, standing like this maybe, or if the feet come in or they go out too much, that's going to affect where the knees are. So what the idea is that we're tracking our knees to the second and third toe. And that involves not having the feet out like that. So we want the feet in their proper position, and then the knees are going to track over that second and third toe. Like that. Okay. And we do this when we warm up in our warrior ones by moving the knees. All right. So practice that a little bit. Take a couple breaths with that. All right. The next thing we want to look at is energy in the body here. So we're looking at, and we're going to use the arm here as an example. So we are extending the energy of the muscles out towards the fingers, and we're condensing the energy of the bones back in towards the spine. So that is going to be working with that strengthening, and same thing with the legs, up and down that way, out from the spine, back in. And then that strengthens the neck also. All right. Next, we are going to talk about hip flexion without spinal flexion. So this is probably one of the most top 3 important things for our bone health here. And we'll do some other short videos with other specific points that we can talk about a little bit more in depth. All right, so when we're talking about flexion, that means forward folding. And usually in a regular yoga class, we do a lot of forward folds. So when we're talking about bone health, we want to think about how those vertebrae stack. So we have one on top of the other. We have natural curves in the spine. And we have space for discs in between each vertebrae. So we want to have that expansion before we have the flexion. But we're not bending in the back. So this is flexion in the spine, which we don't want. We want to use the hips. So that hip crease, you can put your hands right there where your leg would come up. That's the flexion that we want. So if we're going to bend forward, we want to keep from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head, we want to keep that aligned and lengthened. So we're just coming in, hinging at that hip joint, not at the waist, not at the neck, not at the shoulders. We want to keep that nice and tall. So you may find you're not getting down as far, but that's okay because that is the function that we want to protect. So the big issue with osteoporosis and osteopenia is that the bones aren't as strong. And one of those places is in the spine. And what can happen is if we're rounding forward, we're putting pressure on the front of the vertebrae closest to the front of the body. And that pressure can cause breakage, which we definitely don't want to do. All right, so that's our hip flexion. We want to flex at the hips, not rounding at the spine. All right, so next we're going to come into a chair pose. So if you have a little bit of stability issues, have a chair behind you, or you can even do it with your back to the wall. So what we're doing is we're building up strength, and this is a great pose for strength building. All right, so let's get those. We're gonna come up the body with those specific things that we just went over. So 4 corners of the feet and the cross muscles for that. We're going to hinge. We're gonna bend the knees over the 2 second and third toes, hinging at that hip right there. You can put your hands right there and feel that. Standing up, you got bent knees, hinge at the hips. Now the way that we want to do the arms is different than what you might do in a regular yoga class. So typically the arms come up like this and you come down. In this class, what we want to do is we want to open up this way and then come down a little bit deeper. So if you can't go this far, that's okay. Just come to your edge. And we're going to take a couple breaths here. So we're going to inhale through the nose and exhale out through the nose. Inhale and exhale. And then 2 to 3 more breaths on your own. So go back over those spots on the body that we talked about, 4 corners of the feet, knees, and that hip flexion. If it feels comfortable, bring the hands back towards the back wall a little bit more. If that's too much, bring them back forward again. And let's finish together. 1 more breath. Inhale and exhale. And then push in with the feet to come up and then release the arms down. Excellent. All right. Next, we're going to do some ankle strengtheners. And this is important for balance. So we need to have strong ankles, tendency to roll the ankles. A lot of people have a lot of ankle injuries, and therefore we want to strengthen them as much as we can. So if you have a wall, that's great. You can use a chair or, again, the pole. So I'm just going to use the chair here because it's easier to see what I'm doing than at that wall. So when you have a prop, such as a chair, you don't want to be gripping onto it because that's going to take your focus off what we're working on. So it's a light finger touch, and I think that's actually a medical physical therapy term. All right, so light touch on the chair or the wall, and let's find that alignment with the feet, the knees, and we're just going to come up on the toes. So we are strengthening the ankles. Come up with an inhale, come down with the exhale. And let's do 3 more. And last one, inhale, coming up. And exhale down. Beautiful. All right, we're going to do 2 more. So we're going to do our mountain pose. And this is always good to have as a tool for if you need a rest or a break. And this helps with where you are in space, which helps with balance and not falling. All right, so come back to our 4 points of the feet. Knees, a little bit relaxed over the second and third toe. We're not bending anywhere. We're just going to stand here. And hands down by your sides. If you want, it might feel uncomfortable. It might feel great. Rotate the hands so they face forward. So the thumbs point out to the sides, palms are forward. You might find a little rotation in the shoulders, opening up here. And we're going to do another video with tools to help with great upper back alignment. So let's take 3 more breaths here and just notice where we are in space. So we have these natural curves in the spine, and sometimes they get flattened out or overly rounded. So we're going to work on those too. So we want those natural curves. And let's take 2 more full breaths. And last one, inhale. And exhale. Beautiful. And our last standing up pose is going to be a simple back bend. So I was talking about the vertebrae being stacked. So we're going to just gently opening up the front body, gives us more space and helps strengthen those muscles to keep us standing up. All right, so I'll do side view so you can see that I'm not going very far. We're just starting this out, so we don't want to overdo it, but let's go foundations first. Feet rooted into the earth. Knees are soft, second and third toe. We're not flexing going forward. We're going to be extending going back. So what we want to do is have a chair or the wall close by. And we don't want to get dizzy, so we don't want to go too far, and we don't want to pinch the neck. So we're not going to just send the head back. We're going to use our gaze. So we're going to look straight ahead and just gently coming back. So we're going to use our eyes looking up towards the ceiling, going just as far as you feel safe. And we'll take 1 or 2 breaths here. And then on your next inhale, we'll come back to neutral. All right, so if you want to go back a little bit further, but you don't feel comfortable doing that, I suggest the chair or the wall for sure, if you haven't already. So maybe the feet can be a little bit wider. And what we don't want to do is use the thighs for this. We want to be strengthening those back muscles and opening up the front. So hands on a chair or the wall. Little softening in the knees. Feel the feet. That's your foundation, your roots. And we're going to look straight ahead. And we're extending up. So we're going to inhale, lift the spine. And then as we exhale, just slightly come back. Maybe a little bit more this time than you did the first time. Maybe not as much if that was a little bit too much. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale, lift again, and then come back to neutral. Very nice. All right, so we're going to take a chair Savasana instead of getting down on the floor, because that's going to be another video working on how to get up and down off the floor. All right, so find a comfortable seated pose, feet into the mat. And if you want, you can slide back a little bit in your chair to rest the back. Or if you want, you can just stay 3/4 to halfway forward. If your legs are shorter and you want, and you have it handy, bring your feet up on a blanket. That can help with the lower back, get a little bit more space in the back. Palms can be facing up or facing down. And then we're just going to take a moment and lengthen first. So we're going to inhale, lift, and then exhale, release. And one of the things we want to do is, and I think I mentioned this in the intro video, is where our attention goes, our energy goes. So we want to imagine the strength coming into the body, and we're going to use our breath to send that strength around. So we're going to start with the top of the head, feeling that strength and that enclosure of the skull, and the strength in that jaw joint, TMJ here, and how strong our mouth and jaw. We're going to feel how strong and flexible our spine is from the base of the skull all the way down to the tailbone. And that strength in the shoulders. We'll go down the arms, upper arms, the lower arms. And then the strength in those wrists and fingers. And then coming back up to the rib cage. The strength of those ribs to hold in all those important organs in the upper torso. We have that spine coming down into the sacrum and the pelvis, and how important that pelvis is. Coming down into those legs, very strong. That kneecap down into the lower legs. Feeling the strength in the ankles. And then the heel. And all the bones in the feet and all the toes. So just take a couple more breaths here. Feeling rooted into the earth. Feeling the expansion, the space in the body. Crown of the head towards the ceiling. Feeling all the energy collect. And then we're going to send it down through the feet into the earth. And then feel it come right back up the legs, the pelvis, the spine, all the way up to the crown of the head. Take 1 or 2 more breaths. And then when you're ready, you flutter the eyes open. And namaste. Thank you for joining me. We will have more videos coming up. And if you have any questions, send me an email. We will be doing short practices, longer ones, and short little informational videos as well. Thank you so much. Take care. See you next time.